You too. Tone, back with another one for you. This one here is interesting too. This is so we just got off the US Military Corporation section. So this here is a summary, and they're gonna kind of summarize what happened throughout the whole book. This is not the last what do you call it? Installation of the Strawman, but this section here is called the summary, which is where they're going to start to kind of try to tie everything together that you've heard in the last 10 some odd videos that I put out about this. So let's get into this shit. So summary. Before you were born, the bankers operated a scam intended to rob all members of the general public. They removed all forms of money and replaced it with worthless notes which read, "I promise to pay the bearer." And that's what a promissory note is. If you look at your dollar bill, look at your dollar bills, it says promissory note on it. It's a promise to pay. You've never even gotten paid. They've just been selling you fucking dreams and promises and shit. So I promise to pay the bearer with another worthless banknote. They then managed to do away with the government and replace it with a group of commercial companies which they own. They cunningly named these companies so that it looks like a government, right? Like the Federal Reserve, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. They're all fucking private companies. They're all fucking corporations. Just because they're called federal doesn't mean just because they're called federal doesn't mean shit. Like, can they put you in jail and can they arrest you and shit? Yeah, they can. But I can throw these motherfuckers in the trunk too. Does that mean that everything's cool? Absolutely not. I can throw on a fucking costume and go get a fucking plastic badge at the store and pull you over in the car. But does that mean that it's lawful? Absolutely not. Think about what the fuck's happening right now. All right, you got a bunch of corporations parading and pretending to be. They're fucking impersonating government officials. Is what the fuck that they're doing. If you want to be real, that's exactly what the fuck that they're doing. So a group of commercial companies which they own, they cunningly named these companies so that they look like government. They took over the printing of worthless banknotes with their private company called the Bank of England, which is meant to sound like a government organization. You see, and I mean, it's comical at this point when you see it for what it is and you see the fucking games that they've been playing for so long. It's just fucking horrendous. So the next step in their cunning plan was to get their company, which sounded like the federal government, to ask their company, the non-federal reserve, so they created a fucking fake government that has the same name as the real government used to. Then they had the Federal Reserve pretending to be part of the federal government. So they got their fake fucking government to ask the fake bank to print them lots of fake money and charge interest on that money over the face value of the currency. This excess interest amount is called the national debt. In order to fool ordinary people into believing that their country somehow owes somebody large amounts of money. When you understand the way that the books work here, is that first of all, it's not a negative value. So even though it looks like we're in debt, debt is money, and that's how that shit works. So in our reality, the national debt is actually owed out to all the fucking people here in this country. So if the debt is $27 trillion, that's how much they owe us. It's not that we owe them that money. They owe us that money, okay? So don't worry about fucking having to pay that shit off. I mean, I'm certainly not worried about it. So firstly, there is actually nothing owed at all. Secondly, there is no money. Thirdly, the country does not owe anything, and in the unlikely event that there was a genuine debt, then it has nothing to do with the ordinary people, as it is just a national debt incurred by one commercial company to another commercial company owned by the same people. This supposed debt has been boosted over the years to fucking ridiculous levels which could never ever be paid off, and you no doubt will be glad to learn that all income tax is now paid to the owners of the commercial companies. Look at that. So even though you think that your taxes are going to help the fucking country and shit, not a penny of that shit goes to help anything. You know, everything that's funded around your town, states, and cities are all paid for by sales tax. Everything else that you pay for your fucking taxes is a donation to the Queen. Isn't it great to be paying vast sums of money to a commercial company which has never done anything for you, which holds you in utter contempt because you haven't discover their scam and continue to pay lots of ridiculous taxes, fees, and charges, none of which you need to pay at all. Combined, these charges amount to more than 80% of what a person's earned income is. Do you enjoy living on 1/5 of what you actually earn? And that's what it is. I mean, if you stop and think about everything that you pay fucking tax on, that shit is crazy. Literally every fucking thing that you do is taxed. To the point where they tax your fucking paychecks, they tax when you go out to eat, they tax your fucking gas, tax your cigarettes, they don't fucking tax your food, but they tax whatever the fuck else they can. Excise tax, fucking, you fucking name it, right? To the point where 80% of your shit is gone before you even see it. To strengthen this scam, they have invented a language of lies called legal terminology, which is called Legalese, where they have changed the meanings of ordinary English words in order to abuse and rob ordinary members of the public. They have set up a company called the Law Society to train up unscrupulous people in their methods of deceptions and lies. And this is what they do. All the bar members and shit, 4 years studying procedure and fucking case law. These motherfuckers have not read law one time in their fucking life, but they want to be cocky as fuck when they're in the courtroom because that's the only place that they can be cocky, because these niggas are not gangster in the streets. I'll tell you that right the fuck now. But they can be as gangster as they want inside of that building, but nobody can save them when they leave that building. So their commercial company, which pretends to be the government, keeps inventing new statutes, which they pretend are law, which they most definitely are not. And they keep telling everybody that they must obey these laws and that they have subverted policemen and policewomen and convinced them that they have to enforce these statutes, which, mind you, they don't. And they're using all these fucking policemen and women as fucking pawns for all their bullshit because they know that they'll never have to answer for any of their fucking sins, but the people doing it will. So the policemen are going to be on the fucking, are the ones that are going to be getting hung. It's not, and I mean, so won't the people who fucking told them to do this shit, you know? But they do think that they're not going to have to pay for that just because somebody else did it. Yeah, right, bro. The primary aim of these statutes is to take cash, goods, and properties from members of the public who have not yet discovered that it is a scam being run against them. Many police officers are probably themselves ignorant of the fact that statutes are purely optional and no human is actually bound by them. Just to clarify the situation, and I mean, look, and so just to be clear, if any cops are listening to this shit, how the fuck would you feel if the shoe was on the other foot? All right, look at it like that. Look at it like if it was me and I fucking ripped you out of your fucking car when you were on your way to go do something. How would you like that? Because, and how do you know that that won't happen to you? Actually, if you want to get into it, how do you know that fucker you're not gonna get ripped out of your house or ripped out of your fucking car, huh? So just to clarify the situation, breaches of the law are dealt with in a genuine court of jury. All other matters such as taxation, bank loans, parking restrictions, speed limits, and the like are dealt with in a fake court, which is a commercial company and part of the violent protection racket style scam, which is wholly unlawful, enforced by violence, threats, intimidation, bailiffs, police to protect the bailiffs from being attacked. There has never been any law which demands that you pay any form of tax, license, or other charge. What you decide to do is entirely up to yourself. You can continue to give away most of your income to fund people who want to harm you, or you can decide to step outside of this corrupt system and stop paying these people. All humans are born equal, so nobody has the right to order you around unless you agree to give them that right, and the choice is yours. All right, and it is your choice. You didn't know that though, and they wouldn't tell you that, but I will. I'll fucking tell you that. An overview of a political con job. If this has all been a lot of new information for you, then it might be useful to have a thumbnail sketch of the outrageous confidence trick which has been played on you. So here it is for your local area, and the same situation is found in almost every other area as well. It all started before most people were born. It all started with two brothers deciding to run a scam which could make them the richest people in the world and rig things so that everybody else worked for them without being aware of the fact. Even though they are literally brothers, in order to distinguish between them, we will call them Mr. Government and Mr. Banker because that is what they needed to become in order to run the scam. Mr. Government is set up in a very clever system of interlocking commercial companies, choosing names for them which made them look like official government bodies, while in reality they are just ordinary companies like any other high street shop, the same as a fucking Walmart, okay? So in order to strengthen the illusion, Mr. Government hires people to work for him and gives them names like Congresswoman or Member of Parliament or some other meaningless working title. He employs most of them to sit around and argue with each other from time to time. It's all a fucking game, and it's all a fucking it's all just theater, right? So he employs most of them to sit around and argue with each other from time to time. He swaps them around by asking members of the public to vote for who will be his employees for the next few years, right? So even making it look like you even have a choice. You only have a choice to the people that they pick for you to choose from. Know that. So this is actually very clever because it makes, and I mean, so the way that you run the world, and if you want to type it into fucking gematria too, it says to controlled opposition. Controlled opposition. You type it into fucking gematria how to run the world, how to fucking control the world. It says that you have to be the fucking controlled opposition. That's really that simple. All right, and this is what they do. Not even that fucking they're not even that good at it. So this is actually very clever because it makes members of the public believe that their voting makes a difference, while Mr. Government knows that it doesn't, and he sets his company policy. He makes all of the decisions, and he really couldn't care less what happens to his employee at any given moment in time. Meanwhile, his brother, Mr. Banker, has set up two commercial companies of his own. One he calls the Federal Reserve, or the Bank of England, right? So let me just fix this fucking timestamp. All right, so the action starts, and Mr. Government needs money with his which to pay his employees, so he asks his brother, Mr. Banker, to provide some. This is where the fun starts. Our trusty Mr. Banker invents the money and pretends that he has plenty, although he actually has none. He lends a large amount, say $1 million, to his brother, Mr. Government. This costs him nothing as it doesn't even exist, and it is just the first step in the scam. His brother, Mr. Government, now says that he has a national debt of $1.2 million, which he increased by 20%, 1/5 every year if it's not paid off completely. Mind you, nobody could ever, and so this is me saying, nobody could ever even pay that money off, because when they create money out of thin air, right? Say they fucking invent $1 million out of fucking thin air. You got to pay it back at fucking interest at 1% even. Okay, well, where the fuck are you going to get that 1% interest if it doesn't fucking exist? You're going to have to go back to them and borrow it again to pay it back. So you'd have to pay them back, borrow the fake money off them again in order to pay back the interest because it doesn't fucking exist. So they fucking set everybody up. You know what I'm saying? The math doesn't even add up. So his cunning plan of calling it a national debt makes people think that their country owes somebody something. The reality is that nobody owes anybody anything. It's good, isn't it? It's very clever. Without using any of this value, the brother has persuaded people that A, they have a government, which they don't, and B, that their country has borrowed money for essential services, so their country is in debt to some kindly lender, which it isn't. Very slick. These brothers aren't stupid. I think they're fucking assholes, but they're definitely not stupid. It's pretty fucking slick. But they're not good at it. So next, Mr. Government pays members of his staff with pieces of paper called checks, and he sends them to his brother, Mr. Banker, who goes and gets those pieces of paper exchanged for money. But Mr. Banker does not have any money, so instead, he gets his company, the Mint, to print out other pieces of paper called currency, and he passes these out in exchange for his brother's checks, swapping pieces of paper for other pieces of paper. What is the value of these pieces of paper? The cost of printing paper and ink. That's it. It costs like 5 or 6 cents to make a $100 bill. So get the fuck out of here. At this point, what have the brothers gained? Well, they have got a large number of people working for them, doing whatever they say, and it's costing them nothing. Mind you, the $1 bill is the most valuable bill that we have here because that's the only bill that was printed legally, okay, or lawfully, should I say? So every other bill aside from the fucking $1 bill is a fucking fraud. And everybody will know that fucking pretty soon. So, but that is just the first step. Now Mr. Government takes back 80% of what he paid to his employees in the form of taxation. After all, the country is in debt, and so Mr. Government has to take money from everybody in order to repay the country's debt, hasn't he? Why does everybody have to pay? Because his employees say so. They invent statutes and all kinds of charges designed to move money from ordinary people into the pockets of Mr. Government, who promptly pays most of it to his brother, Mr. Banker, the repayment of borrowing nothing and the interest in the amount borrowed. Where does that tax money paid by ordinary people come from? It is paid to them to compensate them for the time and effort which they put in when they were working. This is real money backed by the goods and services provided by the people who do work. This is something of real value, and yet 80% of those valuable assets are taken back from them by Mr. Government. Why do people let this happen? Because they think that they have no choice and they will be put in prison if they don't. And that's because these fucking faggots are the ones running the fucking TV and the news stations, and they only put on TV whenever somebody goes to jail, which most of the time for fucking not paying the taxes. And most of the time it's a fake ass fucking acting movie star that they'll throw in jail. Oh, he didn't pay his taxes, he got like fucking 10 years in jail. Stupid shit like that. Just things like that, and play it back to back to fucking program it in your mind to make you think that that could happen to you, so you fucking obey. All right. I mean, not to mention that you enter into those contracts when you sign a W-4. So if you wanted to get out of there, what you would have to do is rescind your fucking signature on whatever contract it was that fucking got you into that position to begin with. So it isn't that you can just stop paying. You have to fucking rescind it, but you don't have to fucking pay. So there's things that you can do. So what they do not understand is that paying tax is optional, and they don't have to if they don't want to. Mr. Banker is doing very well out of this. His brother is paying him lots of real money in exchange for the fake money which he invented. So he decides to expand his business and do exactly the same thing as many other people do as he can. He offers to lend people money, which he will invent and conjure up out of nothing in order to allow them to buy whatever they want. We will skip the straw man here and just focus on the actual transaction offered by Mr. Banker. A house purchaser comes to Mr. Banker looking for a loan of $100,000. This is the deal on which Mr. Banker can't lose no matter what happens, so he will approve the deal unless he has some very good reason for not doing so. After all, it's not going to cost him anything, and he will be paid with real money gained through real work done by real people. The deal is for 17% interest for 25 years. If the deal runs for the full 25 years, then the borrower will have to pay back as much as $433,000. According to the professional mortgage calculator result. That is, you pay back 4 times the fucking initial loan. So that's how they're doing people right there. So that's how they're doing motherfuckers. Dusty. Just like that. So, and then 4 times what you borrowed, even though what you were given was fake money and what you have to pay back is real labor backed by money. Real labor back money, meaning that you had to work for. You don't have to pay them that. So, but as Mr. Government takes 80% of what you earn before you get to pay the mortgage, you will earn $2 million, whatever, in that 25-year period, as Mr. Government will take $1.7 million away from you in direct and hidden taxes. You see that? 80% of your money goes to these motherfuckers. And to add insult to injury, Mr. Government will take a large chunk of that 1.7 and give it to his brother, Mr. Banker, in supposed payment of a fake national debt. So the house purchaser pays several times the borrowed amount using his real money. It gets even worse. Mr. Banker and Mr. Government make sure that there's not enough currency is issued to the people to be physically capable of paying back the interest on their loans, as there isn't enough currency in the entire economy for that to be possible. So this is another cunning ploy. The people who earn most will not have a problem, but most of the people will have great difficulty and will have very little left after paying their mortgage. The slightest financial problem, such as losing a job, can put the average person in a position where he can't pay the amount demanded. When that happens, it has to happen in a substantial number of cases. Then Mr. Bank tries to take the property using some of his brother's statutes, which are not law, to justify his theft. He may even manage to send in bailiffs ahead of seizing the property and seize many of the house purchaser's personal possessions as well. What the house purchaser needs to remember is that the original loan was fake and Mr. Banker never put up anything of value. The purchaser was never told the real amount which he would have to repay. A genuine contract was never drawn up in that, and in reality, it is not even the human borrower which is asked for the repayment of the debt, of the fictitious debt. It's fake fucking people, fake corporations, pretending to be government, stealing your fucking real property by making you believe that you somehow have an obligation to their bitch asses. It is a game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these fucking assholes. That's what I got for you for now. Until we meet again.